Good evening, you're watching ITV1. And with a roundup of the latest news for this Tuesday, we join Trevor McDonald.
Anger in Iraq after American troops killed 13. Teachers murder, police charge a part-time musician. The British National Party winning votes on Britain's doorsteps. And Real Madrid comes clean about those Beckham rumours.
The ITV News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Good evening. The war on Iraq might be over now, but American commanders found themselves having to explain again today why their troops shot and killed unarmed Iraqi civilians. 13 people died and more than 70 were wounded. Local people call the dead martyrs. It happened during a protest against Americans using a school as their base in Fallujah. US commanders insist they were fired on. Iraqis say the protesters had no weapons. From Fallujah, 30 miles from Baghdad, Andrea Catherwood reports.
Behind the wire, the men of Fallujah fire angry words at the Americans. Last night, they were firing bullets. That is what US soldiers say. That is their justification for opening fire on a crowd of around 200 Iraqis. They killed 13, injured at least 70 more. One US Ranger gave me his candid account of how events began.
I saw a white man with a white outfit wearing, and then he fired. I saw the first muzzle flash out of his weapon. I didn't fire at the first one. I just put my crosshairs on him. I was going to wait for the second one. The second shot he took, I put a round in him. He fell to the ground. He was giving his weapon away to another person so he could retaliate to shoot at us, and then I put another round in that person, and he didn't move anymore.
The Americans were firing from this primary school, which they're using as a base. The protesters had wanted them to leave so their children could return to lessons. The American soldiers here say they came under attack from at least 7 separate positions within the crowd. They say they identified those gunmen and fired only at them. But the bullet holes and the bloodstains tell a different story. The houses across the road from the school are peppered with shots that smack less of precision and more of panic. There are no obvious bullet holes in the school. No US soldiers were hurt. But the hospitals teem with Iraqi injured, teenagers riddled by American bullets. Around half of those who demonstrated last night are now dead or injured. US soldiers killed Iraqi youths, and their chance to be seen as liberators. In this town, they are now a hated occupying force. Andrea Catherwood, ITV News, Fallujah, Western Iraq.
And on the subject of Iraq, the Prime Minister went to Moscow today, hoping to repair some of the diplomatic damage done to relations with Russia. But President Putin was in no mood to kiss and make up, as our political editor Nick Robinson reports from Moscow.
Forget the hug, forget the smiles. These are friends re-divided. They disagreed about war in Iraq and now they disagree about the peace. Bridge building is what they said this summit would be about, but the bridge between Moscow and London remains badly war damaged. At a news conference, Tony Blair will not have enjoyed one little bit. President Putin mocked Britain and America's failure to find the weapons of mass destruction they used to justify war with Iraq.
Where is Saddam? Where are these arsenals? If they existed in reality, what's happening to them? Maybe Saddam is sitting somewhere in a secret bunker and plans in the near future, at the last minute, to explode all this stuff, threatening hundreds of human lives.
All the Prime Minister could do was put on a diplomatically brave face. But there was more to come. President Putin even threatened to block the lifting of the sanctions on Iraq, which when Saddam was in power, he'd argued against for so long. With so little to show for his efforts, all Tony Blair could do was warn of the risks of another standoff between Britain, America and their critics.
This strategic partnership is the only alternative to a world in which we break up into different poles of power, acting as rivals to one another, with every single dispute in the world being played off against these different poles of power. That is a real danger for our world.
The war in Iraq may not have been as long as some feared. The battle to repair the diplomatic damage may be much, much longer. War and Peace was written here in Russia. It was very, very long. Now you can see why. Nick Robinson, ITV News, Moscow.
Police charged a man tonight with the murder of the school teacher Jane Longhurst. Our correspondent Chris Shipp is at Brighton Police Headquarters. Chris?
Yes, here at the Sussex Police Custody Centre in Brighton, the detective leading the murder investigation announced tonight that they had charged the 35-year-old man in custody with Jane's murder, 24 hours after he was rearrested. Graham Coots from Hove was charged formally at 10 to 8. The part-time musician was the partner of one of Jane Longhurst's friends. The body of Miss Longhurst, the music teacher at a special needs school in Brighton, was found dumped and set alight in Woodland in West Sussex on Easter Saturday. She'd been missing for 5 weeks. Mr. Coots was first arrested on Thursday night and released on police bail. Detectives have been investigating his flat in Hove since that time. Mr. Coots will be taken from here to Brighton Magistrates tomorrow morning, where he will make his first appearance in court. Trevor.
Chris Shipp, thank you. A bit of row flared up today over a scheme by the chocolate company Cadbury aimed at school children. Backed by the government, they're offering sports equipment in return for chocolate bar wrappers. The company says the equipment will help keep children fit. Parents and teachers say the scheme will encourage children to get fat. Chris Choi reports.
The unlikely way to fitness, according to Cadbury's. Its government-backed promotion offers sports equipment for schools collecting wrappers. Campaigners say kids will be tempted to devour 36 billion calories.
To get yourself a netball like this worth a £5, you need to spend £38 on chocolate. It's the equivalent of a kilogram of fat. To get yourself a £150 cricket set, you'd need to spend £1,147. That's 33 kilograms of fat. And to get a volleyball set worth £350, you'd have to spend a staggering £2,285. It's 67 kilograms of fat. That's the same in weight as 2 10-year-old kids.
And there's disquiet at the school gates.
It's not right. It's wrong, because the children are going to get mixed messages.
I think it's encouraging the children to basically pester their parents into buying more sweets.
We're not trying to encourage children to eat more chocolate. People eat chocolate all the time. 95% of the population eat chocolate on a regular basis. This is not encouraging them to eat more chocolate, it's just taking those wrappers and doing something with them.
The chocolate initiative, already in 4,000 schools, is heartily supported by the sports minister.
Parents have told me today that they're angry because it's already hard enough to get their kids to eat better food without you pitching in with a scheme like this.
It's not our job to actually change the eating habits. What we are trying to do is to say, get active, get more active in the playground, in the playing fields, and that's what we're trying to drive with this particular project.
But critics of the chocolate scheme say they'll watch for whether it's really about fitter kids or more about fatter profits. Chris Choi, ITV News.
We're taking a break now, but there's more news to come, including new moves to protect the identity of people accused of sex offences. And why Ali's smile means new hope after his terrible injuries.
I'll be reporting from Kuwait on the good news about Ali's condition.
We'll have those stories in just a moment. Welcome back. High-profile cases like that of the TV presenter Matthew Kelly have raised the issue of whether people alleged to have committed sex offences should keep their anonymity until they are charged. Mr. Kelly was never charged. Today, a committee of MPs signalled that the time may have come for people, famous or not, to keep their identities secret until there is a case to answer. Helen Wright has our report.
Matthew Kelly faced very public allegations of child abuse, claims later proved unfounded. Neil and Christine Hamilton were also publicly accused of sex offences. They were also never charged. But in future, anyone facing claims of sex crimes may be guaranteed anonymity. Home Office Minister Hilary Benn says he'll consider making it illegal to name anyone not charged with an offence, if this MP's committee recommends it.
if you make a recommendation, that we'll be happy to reflect upon it.
In cases like that of so-called railway rapist John Duffy, it's always been argued naming defendants encourages people to come forward with information. When snooker player Quintin Han was cleared of rape, lawyers said his identity ought to have been protected, like that of his accuser. That's not being proposed, though some experts believe anonymity should be given to defendants in rape cases.
It should be when the accusation is made and when the charge is preferred and throughout the period of the trial. Anything else is now an injustice.
Unproven, unfounded allegations of rape or child sex abuse ruin lives and reputations, whether those accused are public figures or not. But where celebrities do face allegations, legal changes could ensure the only trial they face is in court and not in the media. Helen Wright, ITV News.
Rumours that David Beckham might move to Real Madrid were quashed by the Spanish club tonight. They put out a statement saying that no contact has existed between Real Madrid and Manchester United on that issue. That there's been no contact between Real Madrid and Mr. Beckham, and Real has no intention of negotiating Mr. Beckham's transfer. Of course, the club said almost the same thing before they signed Ronaldo from Inter Milan. Across Britain, millions of people will vote in council and regional assembly elections on Thursday. The far-right British National Party will make its biggest ever push for seats. The BNP already has 5 councillors in the northern towns of Burnley, Blackburn and Halifax, but it now wants to expand, contesting seats mostly across England, but also at the Scottish and Welsh regional assemblies. It's fighting a total of 221 council seats, more than ever before. One of its main targets is Sunderland, where it's putting up 25 candidates, the first time it's contested every seat on a council. From Sunderland, here's Harry Smith.
Their numbers may be few, but at times they are the most visible and the noisiest party on the streets of Sunderland.
He's against the labour neglect and he's against the influx of asylum seekers into Sunderland and into this country, and he thinks that we should be at the front of the queue, not at the back of the queue.
On the doorsteps, the message is simple. Local services are poor, local crime is high because of asylum seekers, which has puzzled many people in Sunderland. The city has just over 1,000 asylum seekers, but boasts of good relations with them, although one man from Iran was stabbed to death here last year. A white man has been convicted of his murder. The BNP's organiser in the northeast, Kevin Scott, who has a conviction dating from 1993 for using threatening behaviour to a group of Asians, denies exploiting fears of racial violence.
Basically, people are happy to listen to our message and they think that we're on the right wavelength, and they're happy that someone's coming along and actually addressing, or at least attempting to address these issues.
But you don't deny that you are a racist party?
I would deny that we're a racist party. We're a pro-British party.
Wandering around the streets of Sunderland, you could be forgiven for not even knowing there was an election on. There are no posters, there are no politicians on the street. More crucially, there isn't even a polling day. This is an entirely postal vote. These are the only ballot boxes the voters of Sunderland are likely to see, and more than a third of them have already cast their vote. It's part of an experiment to encourage voting, and the BNP is making the most of it, visiting uncommitted voters and even offering to help them fill in the papers and post them.
One in the bag. And,
Such is the concern here that a group of prominent Sunderland citizens, including the athlete Steve Cram, have written an open letter urging people to stop the party winning any seats.
There is also talk in the city that if that did happen, it could have an impact on inward investment, particularly by foreign companies.
There could therefore be a lot at stake for the city, and as they count the votes on Thursday night, it'll also be closely watched around the country. Harry Smith, ITV News, Sunderland.
Coming next on News at 10 tonight, a reminder of tonight's main news and the gifts that brought happiness to help the recovery of Ali Abbas.
Thank you very much.
Good. That's very sweet.
After news from your part of the country.
A very good evening to you from HTV. Recently we featured the plight of people in the West trying to sort out the new family tax credit. Well, the minister responsible for them, a Bristol-based MP, has promised that no one will lose out following the delays in payment. Tonight, another family has come forward to say how it's affected them.
Donna Parker isn't short of paperwork about the new tax credits, but she is short of answers. The trouble is, this is what happens when she rings the special hotline.
We are currently experiencing high call volumes and cannot answer your call at present.
Donna from North Petherton in Somerset, and who's just had her second baby, says she's been given 6 different versions of how much she's entitled to. She can't find out which one is correct, making budgeting impossible.
Very annoyed, because I don't know where I stand at the moment or what's going on with the system. I don't know. We just want to get sorted, really.
It's the latest in a series of complaints about the new system. These mothers from Bristol set up a rota to keep calling the helpline. And in Parliament, the minister responsible, Bristol South MP Dawn Primarolo, came under fire for the way the new benefit had been introduced.
Is there not a need for an urgent inquiry to look both at the administrative problems and at the Chancellor's policy decisions which brought them about?
Donna Parker agrees, claiming a system designed to make her better off has in fact had the opposite effect. Bob Constantine, HTV News, Somerset.
2 soldiers have been awarded bravery medals for preventing a disaster at an explosives factory near Bridgewater. The incident happened when a fire broke out at the Royal Ordnance Factory at Puriton. Staff Sergeant Mark Doyle has been awarded the George Medal for his bravery in risking his life to clear explosives from the site. His colleague, Captain Neil Joynes, has been awarded the Queen's Gallantry Medal. Chocolate bars produced at a factory near Bristol are to be used in a marketing scheme which has been bitterly criticised by dietitians and the Food Commission. Cadbury's are putting tokens on some of their best-known brands in exchange for sports school equipment. Critics say it's sending the wrong message to youngsters.
Rolling off the production line at Cadbury's factory at Keynsham, bars and bars of chocolate. Soon they'll have tokens on the wrappers, which children will be able to collect and exchange for sports equipment for their school. Schools, no doubt, will be grateful, but there are fears children themselves could pay a high price.
I think there is this concern that we are encouraging a high consumption of chocolate, and that will contribute to the problem of obesity. And we do need to remember that we need to encourage other foods as part of a balanced diet.
Indeed, the number of children who are grossly overweight has almost doubled in the past 15 years, all down to poor diet and too little exercise. And there are fears this kind of promotion will just make matters worse. To collect enough tokens to buy a basketball, you'd have to buy 170 bars of chocolate. Now, they contain around 39,000 calories and 2 kilos of fat. You'd need to play basketball for 90 hours to work that lot off. The scheme's been criticised by the NUT, the Food Commission, the British Dietetic Association and the National Obesity Forum. But Cadbury's remain unrepentant.
95% of the population eat chocolate on a regular basis. This is not encouraging them to eat more chocolate, it's just taking those wrappers and doing something with them.
The government's backing the scheme, even though the national curriculum encourages healthy eating. Demolishing pounds of chocolate can hardly be described as that. Rebecca Broxton, HTV News, Bristol.
Well, tonight in Bath, one of the oldest drama companies in the city has performed the light comic opera The Mikado at the city's Theatre Royal. But it's really no laughing matter. This run could be the last at the theatre for the BODS. That's the Bath Operatic and Dramatic Society.
Although this production of Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado is an amateur show, the only people who do it for the love are the actors. Everything else comes at a price which by the end of the week will total £70,000. Even with a full house, it may not be enough to ensure the company returns next year.
I don't want this to happen. I'm quite determined that we shall carry on. And I think with support from people, we shall be able to.
BODS have been staging musicals at the Theatre Royal since 1894. It's always been expensive, but as the company has grown in stature, so the audiences have demanded more, which, according to the director, has made BODS a victim of its own success.
The audiences who are paying, up to £25 a seat expect to see, top-notch material. So that's what we've given them. So now to keep the company going, we've got to get money into the company to keep these shows going.
If it was down to the quality of productions that BODS puts on, then there's no doubt that shows would be here for many years to come. But the reality now in the 21st century is that it's money which decides whether the show will go on. Rupert Evelyn, HTV News, at the Theatre Royal in Bath.
Now will there be curtains for Bristol Rugby because they lost their crucial Premiership game against Saracens this evening. A battle from start to finish. Bristol scored the first try in the opening minutes, but Saracens replied with their own just 4 minutes later. A brilliant cross kick by Good to Johnson set up their second try, giving them a 7-point lead after the conversion. And despite 3 conversions by Shane Dram taking Bristol to within 1 point, it wasn't enough. Saracens 17, Bristol 16 was the final score, which sets up a crucial West Country derby on Sunday against Bath. We'll be there. That's it from us. Good night.
Welcome back. A reminder now of tonight's main headlines. American commanders in Iraq are tonight having to defend their soldiers after 13 unarmed civilians were shot dead near Baghdad. A man's been charged tonight with the murder of the schoolteacher Jane Longhurst. Her body was found over Easter, 6 weeks after she vanished from her Brighton home. And a row has blown up today over a government-backed scheme to exchange chocolate wrappers for school sports equipment. Finally tonight, a progress report on Ali Abbas, the 12-year-old maimed in the bombing of Baghdad. His doctors in Kuwait City, where he arrived 2 weeks ago, say he's doing well. Our correspondent Mark Webster went to see him.
After so much suffering, his gentle smile says it all. Less than 2 weeks in hospital and Ali's recovering fast. Happily watching Tom and Jerry on his mini television. His transformation from the pain-racked boy who left Baghdad is quite remarkable. With the encouragement of his doctors, we visited him in the intensive care unit. They're confident he won't be here much longer.
I would say he will come out of the burn unit in 3 weeks' time. Right. But he will be, in Kuwait till we find him really a constructive plan that take into consideration all aspects of his needs, including psychological, social, and a future plan.
Since Ali's an ardent football fan, we gave him a Manchester United shirt, specially signed by all the players. Pride of place went to his favourite, David Beckham, who wrote Ali, God bless. He surprised everyone with his response.
Thank you very much.
Many countries have offered to provide either artificial limbs or psychological support for Ali. However, after the upheaval he's known in the last few weeks, the hope at the hospital here is that they can provide all the help he needs. Mark Webster, ITV News, Kuwait City.
And that's tonight's news at 10. Coming up now on the ITV News channel, leaders of the 4 main parties in Scotland on the issues in the Scottish Parliament elections. But from all of us here, goodbye.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by PowerGen. PowerGen. Power in good hands.
Good evening. So still very cloudy up there in the north of Scotland. Patchy rain tonight. Elsewhere, the rain really very stop-start. Now, the heavier bursts are going to be down here in the southwest. But similar story as last night, fairly mild, but again, a bit breezy. So a bright start tomorrow morning, the best of the sunshine really down here in the southwest. Fairly gloomy, though, right up there across Scotland, although hopefully eastern areas down in the southeast should get off to a dry, bright start. Now, through the day, cloud will eventually start building up, resulting in showers further west, maybe even some thunder and even hail, but staying very gloomy through the day up in the north. Temperatures, well, despite really getting up to around 17, which is 63 in Fahrenheit, it won't feel too nice in the wind and the showers.
PowerGen. Power in good hands.